I've spent 33 years in active practice, and I've been involved in litigated court cases throughout that 33-year period. My life as an attorney has really been separated into two distinct periods. The first was about 20 or 22 years of practice, where my litigation concentration was in the criminal law, the matrimonial law, and a number of civil cases as well, some contract actions, civil damage claims, and personal injury claims. The second period in my career, as my practice matured, a number of the attorneys in our office took over a number of the criminal cases that I had handled previously and the matrimonial cases that I had handled previously. But I found some new litigation avenues and took on some fairly complex cases in the surrogates court, continue to try civil personal injury cases in the Supreme Courts. And throughout my career, in both the first segment and the second segment, I've had an opportunity to argue cases before the appellate division, both in Albany for the 3rd Department and in Rochester for the 4th Department. My litigation activities as an advocate have certainly really formed who I am as an attorney today, because you have to understand your client's cases, you have to research them, you have to understand the complexities of those cases, and then you have to present them to the fact finders and to the judges to make sure that they're presented appropriately. Arguing before the appellate division gives you a little different perspective, because here you're looking at a case the way a judge looks at a case. You really have to look at both sides and argue both sides to the appellate division, because they want to know the distinctions that really are critical in reviewing what happened at the trial court level. I would say cumulatively, these courtroom experiences have provided me with a platform, a skill set of substantive knowledge, procedural knowledge, understanding of clients' problems and experiences that really uniquely qualify me to serve on the city court bench and to decide cases for litigants who come before me. I think of two particular cases that I was involved in that really I look back on, and I think these were high points in my professional career. I had the opportunity in Cortland County Court approximately 10 years ago to represent a young man who was charged with attempted murder. He was an African American. The evidence against him, while circumstantial, was somewhat damaging. He convinced me, however, in my discussions and my meetings with him, that he was not the perpetrator of the crime that he was charged with. He convinced me that he was innocent of this crime, and convinced me that we needed to take this case fully through a jury verdict. My client was offered a very good disposition by the district attorney right on the eve of trial. He had been in jail, could not make bail, and had been in jail awaiting trial for approximately 9 months. If he had taken that deal, he was going to go to jail for probably another 6 or 7 months, and then he would have been out. He had no significant prior criminal history, and he told me, Mike, he said, when we're done with this case, I'll be getting out anyway, so let's go ahead and try it. He had great confidence in the jury system, and it turned out that that confidence was well placed. At the end of that week-long trial, he was acquitted of all 17 counts that he'd been charged with, and it was a high point in my career. And I would say that the second case that really stands out for me as a formative case in my professional career was a personal injury case that I handled in Onondaga Supreme Court in 2002. This was shortly after the events of September 11th. I represented a young man who was discharged from the military at the time. He was injured in an industrial accident, but had a good military career. The case was a highly technical case. We had scientific testimony from expert witnesses, and it was a highly contested case on the liability issue. At the end of that case, we got a very positive and significant verdict on behalf of my client. And I looked at that experience, how important it was for this young man and his family to get that good result. And that was as a result of hard work and good facts that we had in that case. One other point on that was at the conclusion of that case, Judge Tormey, who was the presiding judge on that particular case, stated to me in an off-the-record comment following the jury verdict that he looked at the presentation of evidence and he felt that the jury was convinced that my client was the type of individual who, on the day of September 11th, would have been running towards the Twin Towers, not away from them. And I believe that that's a fair characterization of my client, and I'm glad I was able to present that evidence so that the jury might have taken it that way. Certainly. If we look at the flip side of the criminal case that I mentioned previously, I had a client who was convinced that he was going to have a fair trial, that there was going to be an impartial judge and an impartial jury adjudicating his case, while his attorney, throughout that whole process, and we were in trial for a week, I was literally dripping sweat when I went into court every morning. I realized how significant this case was for my client. I also realized that he had turned down from the district attorney's perspective, a very fair offer to resolve this case if my client had been guilty. And I knew the risk of the length of incarceration that he was going to serve if he in fact was found guilty at the conclusion of that trial. Those are humbling moments for an attorney when you go through that process and the client puts his faith in you that you're going to do a good job on his behalf. The second area of practice that I've had that has really given me a greater insight in terms of the importance of a judge's ruling and decisions was in the matrimonial area. I tried a number of matrimonial cases, and judges, good judges, making hard decisions that are going to affect people's lives for a long period of time. They're going to affect their relations with their children. They're going to affect educational opportunities, a broad array of impacts for a family. Good judges take these extremely seriously, and good judges are also good teachers. They're instructing and teaching the attorneys throughout these processes. So I would look at those two areas and say that those are clearly things that have shaped me or informed me in terms of how I have to be as a litigant and how I would have to be as a judge as well. People that know me and know me well know that I'm a strong advocate for positions that I believe in, not just in the law but in my personal life. I look at my activities with Cortland Loaves and Fishes. I look at my activities with my church. If I'm committed to a position, I'm going to advocate on behalf of that position, and that's what lawyers do. We are truly advocates on behalf of clients. It'll be a change to be a judge because now you have to set aside the advocacy and you have to replace it with impartiality. But that process of going through and advocating on behalf of clients really shapes your understanding, because you have to look at both sides of these problems if you're going to be a good advocate, and that's what a judge does. A judge is really stepping back and looking at both sides of the equation or the problem. I have appreciated this opportunity to address these questions for you. Over the next 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to see many of you out in the community as we go door to door. I hope you'll be willing to ask me any questions that you might have concerning my credentials and my qualifications to be your next city court judge. I hope that you're going to find that I do have those qualifications, and I look forward to your support in the primary election on September 10th, where I'm hoping you'll give me your vote for city court judge. Thank you.